Okay, let's be real for a second. The whole conversation around AI in our jobs is a total mess, right? One day you hear it's this incredible world of opportunity, the next it's that robots are coming for every single career. It's confusing, it's overwhelming, and it feels almost impossible to know what's actually true. Well, today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to use real data, real economic models to figure out what's really going on. Let's get into it.
So let's start with just one number, $18,000. What is this? Well, get this. That's the average annual salary premium for a job that requires just one AI skill. We're talking a 28% pay bump, according to a huge analysis of millions of job postings. This isn't some far-off future prediction. This is the financial reality happening right now. The market has already spoken, and it's saying loud and clear, AI skills are incredibly valuable.
But it's not just about getting a bigger paycheck. On the flip side of that opportunity is a pretty serious responsibility. As one tech blog puts it, AI literacy has literally become a public safety issue. Because understanding these tools isn't just about getting ahead at work anymore. It's about navigating a world where a simple misunderstanding can have real, physical consequences.
Which brings us to our first big idea. We are living through a global gold rush. But people aren't scrambling for precious metals. No, this is a race for AI skills. Companies, governments, individuals, everyone is trying to figure out what skills actually matter and how to get them fast.
Now, what's so wild about this is that it completely shatters a huge myth. We all kind of think AI jobs are just for coders and data scientists in Silicon Valley, right? But the data, it tells a totally different story. As of this year, 2024, for the very first time, the majority of job postings that need AI skills, a full 51% of them, are outside of traditional tech jobs. AI has officially broken out of the server room. It's now a core part of marketing, HR, finance, you name it.
So why is this literacy stuff so critical? Let me tell you a quick and honestly a pretty terrifying story. A man recently landed himself in the emergency room with a severe case of something called bromism. And why? Because he'd asked an AI tool a question, completely misunderstood the answer, and ended up ingesting sodium bromide, a chemical you find in cleaning products. Now, to be clear, the AI didn't tell him to poison himself. It just mentioned the chemical in a totally different context. The dangerous part was the leap the user made, all because of a lack of critical thinking about how these tools actually work. It's a chilling reminder of why this stuff really, really matters.
And all of this brings every single business to a huge fork in the road. As AI gets woven into everything we do, leaders have to make a fundamental choice about how they're going to use it. And that choice, well, it creates two very, very different futures for all of us.
So let's break down these two paths, right? On one side, you have the displacement model. This is the classic, the robots are coming for your job nightmare. It sees employees as a cost that needs to be minimized, so it focuses on using AI to cut heads and save money on salaries. But then, there's the amplification model, and this is a totally different way of thinking. This philosophy sees employees as assets you want to empower. It's all about using AI to augment our human skills, freeing us up to tackle bigger, more complex problems, and create completely new kinds of value.
And look, this isn't just some feel-good theory. It's just strategically and financially smarter. Take a look at Amazon. Instead of just firing their warehouse workers when robots came along, they chose to amplify them. They retrained them to become robotics coordinators. And the results? They were incredible. Training time for new systems plummeted by 30%, and get this, employee satisfaction jumped by 25%. The key takeaway here is that amplification isn't just more ethical, it's just plain better for business.
Okay, for our next section, let's zoom out a little bit. Because no matter which path companies choose, economists are predicting some really fundamental changes to the very nature of work and how we define value.
To really get this, we need a couple of new concepts from a paper by a few economists. They split knowledge work into two basic types. First, you have routine workers. These are people who are amazing at applying knowledge that already exists. Think of a doctor following a standard procedure to diagnose an illness. Then you have genius workers. These are the people who create brand new knowledge to solve problems nobody's ever seen before, like a research scientist developing a totally new vaccine.
So what happens when AI geniuses start showing up everywhere? Well, in the long run, they get incredibly good at most kinds of knowledge work. This actually pushes the human geniuses to focus only on the absolute bleeding edge of discovery, the most novel, the most complex problems where we still have an advantage. Meanwhile, as the AI gets better and better, it pretty much takes over most of what we just defined as routine work.
Now, another economist, Pasquale Restrepo, gives us a different way to look at all this. He classifies work based on how important it is to the growth of the whole economy.
Bottleneck work is stuff that is absolutely essential for the economy to expand, things like producing energy or managing supply chains. Accessory work, on the other hand, is valuable for sure, but it's not essential for growth. Think about things like fine dining or the performing arts. And here is where things get, well, pretty mind-bending. Restrepo's model predicts that as AI becomes powerful enough to automate all of that bottleneck work, the entire engine of economic growth just shifts. Economic output becomes a function of computer power, not human effort. In that kind of world, the share of all the money in the economy that goes to human labor could shrink dramatically, maybe to as little as 5%, with the other 95% going to the owners of the AI systems.
Okay, I know that last slide was a lot, so let's bring this all back down to earth. What does any of this mean for you, for me, for our careers? How do we actually find our value in this crazy new era?
This is where the data gives us some honestly incredible clarity. When that Lightcast report analyzed the top skills being asked for in those high-paying AI jobs, they found something amazing. 8 of the top 10 are not technical skills. They are fundamentally human skills. Look at this: communication, leadership, management, problem-solving, writing. The great irony is that in a world that's increasingly run by machines, our uniquely human abilities become our greatest economic superpowers.
And yet, that brings us to the really big, fundamental challenge that economist Pasquale Restrepo leaves us with. In a world where AI is the engine of economic growth, he says we won't be missed. Our labor isn't the bottleneck anymore. So the question becomes less about economics and more about our purpose. What does work even mean when it's no longer essential in the way it used to be?
And that right there, that's the question I want to leave you with. We've seen that the skills that make us human, our ability to communicate, to lead, to create, are what employers are desperate for. But as we head into a future where AI can handle all the bottleneck work, all the things that are merely essential, we're all forced to ask a much deeper question. What is it that makes our contribution uniquely, irreplaceably, and truly valuable?